Hi, in today's lesson you will learn how to talk about your hometown, where you live. The lesson will include lots of new vocabulary and phrases for you to use to talk about your life. So let's get started. So first up, where do you live geographically? On which continent and in which country? Do you live in North America, in Asia, or in Europe? Do you live in Spain, China, or India? Is your country divided up into smaller regions called states, or provinces, or counties? Do you live in the north of your country or in the southeast? Do you live in a capital city, a town, or a village? Maybe a market town, or a seaside town, or an industrial town. Do you live by the ocean, by a river, near the mountains, in a valley, or on an island? I live in Europe, in the UK. I live in the county of Oxfordshire, which is west of London, which is near the city of Oxford. My house is by the River Thames. Where do you live? Pause the video and make 2 or 3 sentences about your hometown to describe the geography of your hometown. Say the sentences out loud. Okay, so we've looked at the geography of where you live, but what's your hometown like? Do you live in an urban area? Do you live in Delhi, Madrid, or Sao Paulo? Then you live in an urban area. Urban simply means belonging or relating to a town or city. So Oxford has only 150,000 inhabitants. That's people that live there, but it is still an urban area. Or do you live in the suburbs or the outskirts of a big town or city? The suburbs or outskirts is an area on the edge of a large town or city. Many people live in the suburbs or outskirts because it's cheaper, and then they commute every day to the city centre to work. Or maybe you live in a rural area. Is your hometown surrounded by farms, by trees? Do you live in a village? Your hometown could be rural. Rural is the opposite of urban and means in or of the countryside. I live in the suburbs of Oxford and commute into the city centre every day to work. What about you? How would you describe your hometown? Is it urban, suburban, or rural? Okay, how big is your hometown? How many people live in your hometown? In Oxford, there are 150,000 inhabitants, and an inhabitant is a person who lives in the town or area. So I'm an inhabitant of Oxford. So there are 150,000 inhabitants in Oxford. This is another way of saying that the population of Oxford is 150,000 people. Population is the most common way to measure the size of a city. How big is your hometown? What is its population? How many inhabitants does it have? Pause the video and make a sentence about the population, the size of your hometown. Okay, so what is there to do where you live? What are the amenities like? Amenities are things like swimming pools or shopping centres or shopping malls that make life more pleasant or comfortable for the people in the town. So you could say, I've always preferred an urban lifestyle to a rural lifestyle. I'd much rather live in a city than in the countryside because there's so much more to do. It's full of life. There's a lively nightlife. There are lots of trendy bars, cafes, restaurants and nightclubs. That means cool or fashionable. And there are lots of amenities such as sports centres, swimming pools and museums. Cars have been banned in the city to reduce pollution, and the up-to-date shopping area, this means it's modern, is a pedestrian zone, which means that no cars are allowed and people can only move around on foot. What I particularly like is the fact that my hometown has such a cosmopolitan atmosphere because there are people there from all over the world. Or maybe you live in the suburbs or outskirts of a town or city. So you could say, I live in a residential area in the suburbs of Oxford. A residential area is a part of the city where people live. There are delightful parks and lots of bus and cycle lanes and good public transport, which makes it easy to get around. I live on a housing estate that is a group of similar types of houses in a quiet neighbourhood where the prices are not too steep. This means that the prices are not too high. Or maybe you prefer to live in a quiet and peaceful village away from the crowded cities. You love being surrounded by nature with lots of fresh air and green fields, where the only noise is the sound of the birds and the sheep. It's much safer as there's less crime and the roads are much safer. They're less dangerous. It is also unspoiled. Unspoiled means that it's beautiful because it has not been changed or damaged by people, and it's close to nature. Okay, so now let's think about what your city is famous for. Does it have any tourist attractions or landmarks? These are things that bring tourists to your town. Does it have a ruined castle or a huge temple or an ancient mosque? Does your town produce anything? Oxford, my hometown, produces the mini car, but it's most famous for its university. Pause the video and think about your hometown. Is it famous for something? What does it produce? Try and make a sentence or two about its tourist attractions and landmarks. Say the sentences out loud. Finally, let's think about what you don't like about where you live. What are the challenges and problems of your hometown? Maybe it's very crowded. That means there are many people everywhere, especially during the rush hour. This is the time between 7 and 9 in the morning and between 4 and 6 in the evening. At those times, the public transport, that is the buses and the trains, are packed with commuters, coming to the city to work and then going back to the suburbs in the evening. Those who don't use public transport drive to the city in their own cars, and this causes terrible traffic jams on the roads and of course lots of pollution, which makes the air dirty and unpleasant. It can get quite stressful at times. Maybe some areas have been neglected. That means they are in a bad condition and have not been receiving enough care or attention or money. Maybe you live in the suburbs or a rural area and it's too quiet and there is not enough to do. Maybe young people feel isolated and there is not enough work. Think about your hometown. What don't you like about where you live? What are the problems and challenges you face living there? You know what to do. Pause the video, say 2 or maybe 3 sentences about the problems in your hometown. So that's it for now. I hope you feel more confident talking about your hometown in English. Write a comment down below about your hometown using all the vocabulary and phrases you have learned, and I promise to give you feedback on what you write. Like this video if you found it useful, and remember to share it with your family and colleagues learning English. And don't forget to subscribe for more free English language videos. Take care and see you very soon. Bye bye.